Why the gravity is happening? What causes the gravity? The hunger of the masses actually create the gravity. This must be a weird thing to hear. Whether the earth attaches the man on its surface or the man eats his co-evolved living things like plants and other animals, all are gravity. Gravity is nothing but the activities of the masses for existing by feeding themselves the energy through consumptions, inclusive of other masses, either by attracting or by grabbing. This is only the definition. To understand, we need to know from the start of the universe. What do the Big Bang theories say? A tiny single particle had immense amount of hidden energy that exploded to create the universe, along with some fundamental particles in it, and is keeping on expanding like a stretching cloth, along with the formation of bosons to galaxies. This could not be true. Why? First, if at all anything start from scratch, it would start as simple, even though it would have emerged greater later. Second, literally, explosion means destruction, even though we get something out of it later. Third, the life on the earth is evolved from microbes up to the man. So should be the universe. It's all the evolution from the start. Every time, everywhere. And first evolution. A single particle appeared. I call this particle as space particle or the VOANUM for the understanding. On second evolution, the VOANUM self-powered to divide into two VOANUM as right and left without losing the bonding between themselves. They keep on multiplying like building blocks in all the directions. While splitting up into two, the VOANUM shaped themselves as cube to occupy all the area without leaving any gaps on the bonding. Moreover, the cube shape enables piling up of themselves and sliding in between themselves. Take a sphere shape for example. It necessitates something or at least nothing in between the curved gaps. As the one or the everything, there is no anything or even no nothing at all, other than VOANUM. The VOANUM piling up looks like strings of beads in all the directions. Multiplying of VOANUM is the factor to the expansion of the universe eternally. And third evolution. Multiplying process of the VOANUM creates sliding among them, subsequently the frictions. These frictions combine few of the VOANUM to generate new particles here and there with different characters due to the different kinds of sliding frictions. I call this particle as mass particle for the understanding. On fourth evolution, as the mass particle is evolved from the VOANUM, it needs more VOANUM for the existing. That need is the hunger. So it started consuming the VOANUM that seems like the strings of VOANUM are flowing into the mass particle towards the core. But consuming the VOANUM alone wouldn't be sufficient for some of the mass particles. So that mass particle, by consuming the strings of VOANUM, starts attracting and consuming the other mass particles nearby. That is when the gravity started. To understand, we'll look at the simple explanation about the formation of masses. When the two mass particles are nearby in the strings of VOANUM without any disturbances, they would attract each other because in between the mass particle, the consumption of VOANUM are doubled. It can even apply to the galaxies where the two galaxies are close enough. There, consumption of VOANUM exceeds the multiplying of VOANUM in between them. Automatically, the two galaxies would flow towards each other. The reverse would happen where the two galaxies are not close enough. There, multiplying of VOANUM exceeds the consumption of VOANUM in between them. automatically the two galaxies would flow apart each other. This is largely happening all the time to expand the universe eternally. Now, we'll come back to the mass particles. After reaching both the mass particles, either stayed as separate mass particle attaching themselves or combining themselves into a new mass particle. As it is becoming larger, the mass consume huge volume and great length of strings of VOANUM. The conception always starts from the core through all the angles of the masses, and more the radius and more the dense of the masses consume, more the length and more the fast of strings of VOANUM. The strings of VOANUM flowing into the larger mass through consumption overpowers the small masses consumption. Hence, the small masses that are consuming the strings of VOANUM nearby are attracted towards the larger masses core. This process of making inclusion or attempting to make inclusion of other masses is gravity, either by attracting or by grabbing, either to attach as part of it or to consume to make part of it. The gravity is the main fundamental to the formation of and activities of the masses. Whether the stars are attracting the planets, planets are attaching all the things, or trees are absorbing the water, animals are eating the plants and other animals. The self and other combination along with the gravitational pulling make free of the masses to spin themselves like stars and electrons. Take the solar system. The sun, being the larger mass, consumes great volume of strings of VOANUM from all the angles. The sun also rotates, and so do all the planets, all in one direction, assuming horizontally. The Venus retrograde rotation will come later about that, and now focus on the sun rotation. Take the center circumference of the sun as equator, top and bottom as pole. Sun rotation along the equator due to the maximum rotating circumference drags strings of VOANUM in great length and huge volume, and towards the pole due to the minimum rotating circumferences drags strings of VOANUM in reducing length and decreasing volume. Moreover, the conception by the masses always start from the center, a single point of the core through all the angles, and the rotation always from the axis, a straight line between the poles through one angle. Hence, the rotation of the sun aligned with string consumption along the equator, but on the poles it tends to be on right angles. As the sun is the gas ball, it freely rotates along the equator due to alignment with consumption and reduces the speed of rotation gradually towards the pole due to the non-alignment with consumptions. So the strings dragging happen even faster and longer along the equator. If a planet comes or newly forms along the poles, it would either be attracted towards the sun or would make random movements. When the planet comes or newly forms along the angles of the equator, it would start to revolve around the sun. How? The strings of one conception by the sun overpowered the planet conceptions. The strings of one dragging by the sun rotation in huge volume and great length make very long series of circulating whips around the equator of the sun. So the strings of VOANUM that are flowing into the sun through sun consumption carry the consuming planets towards the sun, and by flowing into the sun, the strings of VOANUM that are circulating around the sun by sun rotation carry the planets to the side of the sun. So, with both the movements toward and side, the planets are carried around the sun. Hence, strings of VOANUM consumptions and rotations by the sun are the factors for making the planets to revolve around. But the planet's revolving speed differs to the sun rotation. How? Due to the circulating speed of the strings, they could not get hold of the planet with same set of strings of VOANUM and are moving the planet with series of circulating strings. like touch and go brushing. One volume of strings drag a little and go past leaving the planet, another volume comes to drag. This string's dragging gets weaker with the distance from the sun. That tail of the strings follow the line slowly, making the more bends to create the spiraling pattern. We can witness that in the spiraling pattern of the galaxies, that billions of stars are being carried by series of circulating strings of VOANUM that are formed through rotation and consumption by the center of the galaxy. So, closest planet traveling speed would be greater than the farthest planet from the sun. Planet traveling speed is determined by the sun rotation, not by the self motion. If the self motion of the planet is the factor, the planet would have got their own speed randomly, not gradually, as happening in reality by the distance from the sun. Now, on the Venus retrograde rotation. The foreign object impact theory could apply only to the Uranus odd rotation, not to the Venus retrograde rotation, because just an impact could not make one planet all the way to flip upside down exactly in straight. The sun and all the planets were rotating in one direction, assuming anticlockwise. The planets were trapped in the circulating strings by the sun to revolve around. At the same time, the touch and go brushing process of the strings are not only dragging aside the planets, they are also attempting to rotate the planets to the clockwise, because strings dragging happen to the opposite direction of planets' rotation. Hence, this attempt at first would make the planets to slow down the anticlockwise rotation and then would start the clockwise rotation. This slowdown and making opposite rotation process would take billions of years to happen, and that would start from closest planet from the sun due to the dragging strength of the strings. Then why the Venus took front before the Mercury? Some self combination of the Venus like atmosphere or mass content added to the slow down faster than the Mercury. After slowing down to the stand, the Venus has gotten aligned with the strings dragging slowly now to the clockwise. The Venus will be gaining speed of clockwise rotation in future, while all the planets will be slowing down of anticlockwise rotation. So time will come for the Earth to witness sunrise on the west. And fifth evolution. The age is set for the masses. Masses have beginning, ending, and in the between the both they have the life. But the end is only for the masses, not the character. It is gained along the life. Star explosions are meant of transmitting its character to the other masses, even to the faraway galaxies. Likewise, planet Earth has got all the characters to transform into a compatible place for the life to be evolved. Human is transmitting his character to other human before dying to transform towards one more evolution. Hence, the destruction of the masses either by explosion or by degeneration are one more means of helping evolution by transmitting and transforming. On sixth evolution, life is evolved on planet Earth. The varied character from the varied masses transmitted to the Earth settled and transformed in many dimensions like water, soil, metal, minerals, chemicals, etc. Some characters knew that they didn't belong here and were attempting to escape from the Earth. That escaping effort began the new dimension of masses that we call the life, and have taken many formations and evolutions. The plants were attempting to escape by growing taller, animals were moving in search of places to escape, birds by flying, and the men by adopting everything. So it's all the evolution from the start, every time, everywhere. Explosion is only the part, sometimes and somewhere. The Big Bang is an illusion.